Abusia makwa abasonko so eba POG Media ene yeremekọ highway ne so highway ne de ensem bebi wo so ayen so ya Japan se ebe me abidwafo no ahu de ekọ ene de eba na den na ekọ so ewo highway ne so eye Matthew Opoku Prempeh a Ghana obi anim se ye frɛ no NAPO a nanse ya NPP for Dr. Bawumia moba Ashanti region ebeyi ne kyerɛ se ono ene ye running mate a kyerɛ se omode na ewura 2024 abato ni na we ena NAPO ne unveiling no omoyi na kyerɛ no keka nsɛm bi odi former president for atem Kwame Nkrumah odi na atem ama ebeye nsɛm de dwa na yisi ano NAPO say yisi ano wa bre Ghana sa leadership no enye easy na yisi ano wa jani bibi agu a wa resign a ose onye running mate to Dr. Bawumia biwa enye asem ketwa kwa Kwame Sifakaimo at the Honsem about to Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh or say ade will resign as NPP running meter. You see information and I'm highway so. Ya be pese be me abidwa fon be me akona yakwa akuti ensema ekoso ewo highway so. Na ni spokesperson so the ensemi betu dwa ya be pese be me abidwa fon be kwa akuti. Aha, a POG Media, political trending stories are making waves biano. Yeah, so yeah, to say the once.
Accessibility. Mesaba. Na mwadi na asono. Mwadi no. Mubibi no sono. Yes, say let it be clear and say NAPO has resigned as running mate.
That ben no smile.
When has a date to one?
Because then ready.
July 15, and then that been 16 January. Fifi Wafo.
Kwame.
Martin.
Major Chairman.
Now, one resignation.
A resignation. Me move fake news na circulation.
I patch my nesu kakra. What say?
Me say me fake news na circulation. That resignation me who.
One who fake news, one who resignation.
That's right.
Mikura mean some crate be resignation as running mate. I say Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh na actually say wejai.
Enyano. In fact, anyone na jo na you yes. Now on social media, no, we also let people know on social media that enyano kre the biasa is in fact, everyone dana that's by Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh echo Eastern region, Okokushia corner of Manya Krobo, Eddie Kutin Kita, only in Adam for the Juma Yashan as running base of the NPP. Luffy or call Yellow Krobo, Kushia party, and the full bit more elbow. Our Baby Green, and Anapia Menoka say, all parliaments are who share the majority caucus of the NPP. Of course, on social media, there is a lot of issues that also the Akas of one day. We are there, you're back to the and you know, credit, na Dr. Bawumia Sh0ckěd, so on ye as running mate, the man, the New Patriotic Party president,
Oh, ain't you resign?
Oh, there be that. Wait, yeah, come in, you get the view of the man I resign. Say, yeah, and William Shah, Dr. Bawumia, and NPP, Sh0ckěd, will be guys, and William Shah, and Gatsby.
Yo, and interest way. Say on resign here, dear. But and then I'm say yes, say or the Jumana to.
Mr. Dear, you said Dr. Prempeh, I am the Akwaka Chairman Penny, say a Juma or the man as energy minister. He's saying a suji fufra a dear man in your percent or dinner dad in a one day. Didn't mean that so now or board Dr. Bawumia man in this radio. Rather, Nejuma as education minister, Nejuma as energy minister, and all the other. The NPP party Nejuma too as energy minister. So, about the same like I say, started cooling a video of this. This was unfortunately said now, social media, no, your money may be exceeding it because also. But a year no credit behind that, and indeed, as soon as any acquaintance from Kwao to best level as a running meeting. Okay. 50
minutes and pay. Now, Ukra Siren, dear.
Bawumia,
Yeah, that's an Fifi Boafo, spokesperson for Dr. Matthew Pokuprempe. 24 minutes at the top of the hour. About policy, me and FM, come back to me sirens.
Yes, let me say, look, policy be our objective. We share free SHS policy as brought by Nanadwi. The idea is to increase accessibility to secondary education. Mahama policy, so the objective was to increase accessibility to secondary education.
Okay.
What varies, any the degree and intensity of your kind of saying what you do to cover and to ensure accessibility. Even when you say Nkrumah did his bit, but it was not entirely free secondary education in the north. It was subvention. Secondary education was heavily subvented. In fact, when he was presenting the 7-year development plan, what he said in that speech, he said, by the time you can say SAR policy, would have been fully, the plan would have been fully implemented. By 1972, and these were his words, Ghana would have, begun enjoying free secondary education. Until as far back as the 60s, Nkrumah envisioned say Ghana Kolabia Ehiase Obenya secondary education. But what shall see from a point, Eka said, look, Northerners, because of the educational gap, 101 years now between the south and the north move.
At least it's been bridged.
We are getting there.
Yeah.
And some of these policies are actually very instrumental in that process. Until now, you were doing it piecemeal. Yanjin say access to secondary education, na ye piecemeal. Mahama baye ono so ye na afemu de. Even Akuffo did his bit. Even Metro Mass and Kola Frudico School, they are all part of enhancing access to secondary education.
But about free SHS,
by free SHS, universal free secondary education, whereby you don't pay for cost of secondary education. End
of story. And let me move on. Let me move on. And then Unipa Osei Kofi Akwa, former National Youth Organizer CPP, says, Chairman General, are you talking only about the sirens? They also want unlimited speed, irrespective of where or when. Greetings to your panel, especially at TP Akubi, Edibetu justifying into Muhia. Now, Minya Penny Bako and Anakumia down for my friend Addo Williams. Addo says the day after we wake up to various discussions on our radios and televisions and so. Anyway, Ajik, what do you make of it? Maybe I know so.
This is yet another reflection of how increasingly, Chairman, your opinion are losing sight of Nientia Yediomoko Tana Marajabijum. Your foremost responsibility is to serve your constituents and by extension Ghana for. And service, yet you are saying, look, when you are made a leader, you are made a servant. When they be a who serve the country, who serve our nation, service yet you are saying. Now you want to live like the sultans of Brunei in this country. You want to live like Sabi, Mudie, Muklas Unkun, any Yakano, your class Unkun. And that is not how this should be. Because say you see moons, won't start using sirens, which means that you have no respect for there's no respect, but there's no regard for other road users. Mubana, there is traffic, Mubeso Mudi, so Biama Kwan, yes, so siren dia. We are why, so conchain, na siren rano, Abesnako. And that is not how you serve, your people. Look, elsewhere, ministers, any MPs, Omudi traffic regulations, so kama, Obia traffic chiwa, na chu, Opeso Kobe Bintemas or intem, just like everybody else does.
But amendments, they are called two parts. Right now at the parliament.
I know.
Now, almost say head of state, president, vice president, speaker of parliament, chief justice, ministers of state, justices of the Supreme Court, and members of parliament. And then I must say, can
you imagine the chaos?
276 MPs.
Add the ministers.
Plus ministers who are not MPs.
Deputies can
plus Supreme Court judges.
Minister, deputy ministers who can be. Chairman, we are running into thousands of people like killing us with noise in this country, causing chaos on our roads. Because ministers, deputy ministers, MPs, Supreme Court judges, the other 4 gentlemen, Chairman, you can imagine the chaos. And yes, to what end? At the end, but what has happened? That would occasion amendment. At the end, they see Rebecca say, wait, because of Nesi and Ebe here say Ebe Sadi. Me won't see all of a sudden. Yes, MPs and you see sirens or Montra traffic light. Chairman, what kind of chaotic country are we trying to build? Say a sort red crana or no bit me up. Imagine say Sabi Obi ba Obi the aso green. Ooh, MP na Oban Udi and aso red. But you see who can say Obi me up red.
According to Andy Apia Kubi or say it will enhance productivity, ensure timely arrival of parliamentary meetings. Considering the heavy traffic, or say some MPs, ministers of state, and judges have been arrested for trying to meet their schedules. Or say the exemption would only be necessary during congested periods. It, I think reasons living here.
Chairman,
I think
because MP and now minister Abo Keles will control Chinenti. See, they want to legalize Keles Bono. That's precisely what this is about. Say, yen legalize or Keles Bono. Chairman, if you have a parliamentary meeting, you are required at some point in time. Chairman, what stops you from waking up early? And because MPs, you see, the fact that the MPs and ministers were arrested, nobody is above the law. Chairman, this is what we call constitutional chaos. You want to legalize this chaos. Say, because of MPT, or no dear, if I say, obebu traffic regulations, so because we want to now legalize the kind of misbehavior they were exhibiting on the roads. Maybe one minute here.
So when you MP down your minister that Nana Kumia na evidence be no notice.
Chairman, me ba fitting kuruma this business. I will say our parliament has been unproductive, and our MPs have not been productive because they have not been allowed to use sirens and crossing traffic lights. Sometimes some of the Sabi, it does no credit to our intelligence as Ghana for say your justification for wanting Dine say your MPs be more fum traffic regulations and sometimes parliamentary meetings be why some contempt. Chairman, wouldn't say meeting here now if you fear 6.
Obviously, what are they in a hurry to go to parliament for? Is it to go and walk out? To follow Akuffo into court whilst boycotting parliament? To shout yeah, or to do what?
Chairman, to add to that, you see, when it suits them, they say, or when they are attending up on parliament and Chairman, how many times has the speaker complained about the fact that the chamber is almost always empty? Unless there are major bills and agreements that is voting on a pass it. For the most part, the chamber is empty. Until productivity and okay.
I know BBC saying to Namkrum. Now what is siren, Bakwe ambulance, Bakwe MP. One other man crying.
And let's even take this scenario for example, Chairman. Say MP Baku, MP for Nsoko, FEC never. MP for Gamara for Enyes, and MP for Obisu. But now for remember there's an intersection. Obia to me say Obetra traffic light. Obia so siren. Chairman, can you imagine what is going to happen? And sometimes I say you're paying for no drink. Look, when they were talking about police protection, it made sense because one of theirs was murdered, and there was a reason for it. But siren, you want to just no. This is not something that should have even made it to parliament. I mean, in fact, you shouldn't have, and Eba and Ukraine shouldn't have even laid it. But like you said, one said there is unanimity. Obianka said, you see, MPC, until I told you, people are increasingly losing faith in parliament because Nyoma to say we no, you would expect at least a few to even speak against it. And Obi to say and appear could be. I mean, is Obi I was increasingly beginning to admire because of how outspoken he is and his convictions. BBC Yanka or no would be the first I may expect to say Ketia. But as he's also giving justification. And nobody from minority and from majority is saying wait dear. Everybody is silent because they all want to feel like Arabian kings in town. And that cannot be. Chairman, Newman be and we yes say, how do you expect young Ghana to see you as a parliament? But Newman and you just you cited an example. Said to the extent that a whole group can say, young parliament because we are solidarizing with one of our own. Obia Koyeni Newman on Nimra AD, that's a different case. But you would find members of parliament saying, young parliament because we want to solidarize with him. But idea Ghana for nobody's speaking to it.
Professor Ransford Jampo says, I don't understand why some poor people are just not modest. Prime ministers of rich countries ride bicycles to work.
Oh, yes.
They show modesty and prevent diabetes and high blood pressure. We want to live above the citizens by asking to be allowed to be kukuti behind V8. Drive on limitless speed to endanger the lives of the poor. We cannot develop if we keep insulating leaders from the very problems they have to solve. Let them also drive through traffic so they can help solve the traffic situation. Ransford Jampo.
Absolutely, Chairman. If the problems...
KP says, has the establishment become aloof and tone deaf? Tone deaf, just to what is going on in the domestic front and in places like Kenya? Of all the issues confronting Ghanaians, is this the most critical one? Self-serving and insensitive. KP NAD no ebaye.
I couldn't have said it any better.
But Okuku Seku says the Dutch Prime Minister rides a bicycle to his office. In Parliament, Ghana borrows to his office and Parliament. Meanwhile, Ghana borrows money from the Dutch government. I rest my case.
This is a case of Obidioka, not Orinam. Now, why you can want to me Rinam? And we be new. Look, I don't know why we want to, like Professor Jampo said, we don't want to be modest. We are living above our means. This is a reflection of your kind of attitude, you know. Sir, and this attitude of servants wanting to feel bigger than the served, you know. Me dream one in tears here. Look, this one should not even make it past. I said this is the point. They say with no hope of return to Parliament. It should not even be considered.
Instead of building roads, clearing pavements, sealing potholes so we can all move freely, see what they are doing. Let's raise money to fix sirens on all trotros and taxis then. Bufusem, that is Danny. But obviously 275 MPs blowing sirens.
Imagine the chaos. Everyone say when they are in session, they are all in Accra.
Yeah.
So imagine the chaos in Accra. Now, Ufa deputy ministers, Bebrekwa, and Akuffo do the way you are moving, you can imagine the number. Ministers issue our money parliament, so they are quite a number. At the end of the week, come in Abumwa. German ambulance would even become one to crash ambulance nearby.
And I'm a who ambulance the MP. I want to be man crying
because they both have rights of road. Because man crying so best on the side. Now I'm man crying. Ambulance so man so man crying. And which one takes precedence?
Obviously, how come the labor unions are not protesting against this one?
One fight at a time.
Eric Amponsah says, in my opinion, the LI is not necessary. If you have an appointment, leave home early. Kwame, it will be abused. It will render its intended purpose meaningless. Our MPs will abuse the law. Government must rather improve upon road infrastructure and also a reliable rail network, so that vehicular traffic will be reduced. Eric Amponsah, tax expert. But as I said, Atik, only MP da, and now only minister da. Ain't he be an ounce? Nana Kumiana, MP 16 years was also I am minister. Nane
Kwame
Ava
Kwame
abusua we ne ensema ekoso ewo highway ne so eye Matthew Opoku Prempe na or then a resignation letter about or say Ghana for and some more mark so baby you see ano dakrana or dana na machine you see ano or dana ye friend na homache that means say on pese obetua running mates ne so biona aya Ghana for nso nwa na efa baby nso na ye bi model say NAPO no or very arrogant ontumi embeli di Ghana intino yebema yabedwafo no yɛbɛda mo ase sɛ mokɔkɔ tie saa audio yi ɛde ma yɛ aha ɛyɛ POG Media political trending stories a ɛmɛki waves bia no yɛn nso yɛagye atom sɛ yɛde bɛbrɛ mu Matthew Opoku Prempeh wɔ disappointed NPP foɔ no yi a ɛnyɛ asɛm ketewa koraa mɛda mo ase